friends. Welcome to Flosstube and Variety Show number 161. Today is July 4th, 2025, otherwise known as Independence Day. And I always laugh at some people. I've heard some Flosstubes who say, you know, this weekend we'll be celebrating. On Friday will be the 4th of July if you're in America. And I'm thinking it's the 4th of July everywhere. But we celebrate it in particular because it marks the signing of the Declaration of Independence, I think. You know, I should know that exact detail. I'm pretty sure that's it. Yes, I'm sure that's it. Anyway, happy Friday to you. Happy 4th. I know many people are going to have cookouts and parties and go out this evening and watch fireworks if you're in the United States. And I hope that everybody has a great time. But Flosstube has to do with cross stitch and Variety Show has to do with something else. And we'll see what all that amounts to. To start with cross stitch, I'm going to show you my only patriotic finish. No. I actually stitched the Abigail Adams piece from this Blackbird book called, I can't remember what it's called. And I just looked this up, and can I remember it? In Full Glory is what this is called. It's a Blackbird design from one of their patriotic books. This one I made a couple years ago, and I stuffed it with sawdust, actually. So it's very firm, it's flat, and everything is fine about it, except I don't like what I did down here. I didn't know what I was doing. I may not still know what I'm doing. This is Nantucket Brew linen 40 count by R&R, and this is the called for DMC floss. Mostly the called for. I think I switched out a different white color for the eagle's head because it was blending into the linen too much. And I believe this was the first thing I stitched on 40 count. One thread over 2 linen threads. This was a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah, I'm happy with it. I will show you under the roof of blue Ionian weather. This is now 88.5% done. There's the whole thing. Of course, I've been working over here. I've been filling in the people and various parts of the, just wherever my hoop is, I do something until I'm tired of that color or that area, and then I move on to something else. I sort of had it in mind to fill in what's underneath this arch. You can see the C back there. And I don't think I have it quite right, but what I hadn't realized is that part of what you see here is through the arch, you see the rose bush, which there is one behind here. You can see it up in this area. And then over here, of course, is a big rose bush. So, I don't know. I mean, you won't be able to see that from close up, but from a normal viewing distance, I think you'll be able to detect that's what this is. This is the small version of this chart by Golden Kite. And I actually asked them, it's a custom size. I asked them to do that. I'm just gonna put that behind me because that's where it goes and I won't lose it. I worked on Jane Thompson. This was my June focus kind of ish. My goal was to get started on the house. And here's the whole thing that I have done so far. You can tell I did not iron it. But I did actually get over to the house, so I finished that flower arrangement. I put in the little dog and the little whatever that is at the bottom. I brought that medium, that inside border around a bit more, and I finished all of the chevron type, or whatever they are, fleur-de-lis pieces in the middle. All of those are now done. And the vertical in dark there that you see is the side of the house. Right here. So I made it, and that means that I can count over and do the house and get that set up. This is a very good piece. The house part will be, if I can do all the outlining to do it, set it up to be fill in. But this is so nice. And I'm looking forward to spending more time on those interesting flower things in the border as well. The border is what struck me about this piece to start with. But I think it's quite nice. And of course it has one of my favorite sampler verses on it, the Jesus permit thy gracious name to stand verse, which I like a lot. I also worked on Upon My Heart by Plum Street. This was a commissioned chart from the Queen City Sampler Guild by Plum Street in honor of our 30th anniversary. And what I did was brought the border a little more on the top. I did some of the words, and I began to do the color, the pink colors in the, what do you suppose those are? Strawberries, probably, in the border. And this is the called for flosses on 46 count Dolly Madison, I think, by Needle and Flax. So it's going to be about this big. It's square, so it's going to end about here. And I haven't decided exactly what I'll do with it, if I'm going to frame it or make a little pillow. Problem is, with framed things, you have to have a place on the wall to put them. But with a little pillow, you have to have a place to display them somewhere. Both things are challenging. I don't know. Hannah Green, 1826. This is the Sal that I sort of organized. And this was the Queen of the May for 2024. Hands Across the Sea. This is a division of it. And in the description field under this video, you will see what I am calling the assignments for the different months. For June, I finished June, I'll show you in a minute. The assignment for June was, I can't remember, yeah. This big flower arrangement, this thing labeled F, plus the second line of the over one verse. That was the assignment, but I have modified my recommendations, which now my assignments are to start, having started with this month with May, June, July, and August. My recommendation is to do the original assignment plus do this section down here. Because if you don't, and if you leave that and do it in a month by itself coming up, you will have also done a pretty much full coverage section here and this whole house here in a month, and all of that taking place November, December, January, February, which is not a month that most of us want to have huge amounts of stitching that are required to keep up. So I'm going ahead down here, and let me show you. So here's the whole thing. I started July also, which is why that's the whole thing. Here's this flower arrangement for June right there. The second line of the verse is not as long as some of them. And what I did down here is I started on the grass, and then I put in a couple of the sheep. There are 6 sheep in this section, plus 2 birds and a cow. So there's quite a bit of animals. And that means that really you sort of have to count a lot. There's a lot of counting in this particular section of the lawn. Previously, I had put the white picket fence in, which is actually part of section M in my assignment. but having the picket fence in gives me a place to count from. So you can see those 2 sheep. I will probably carry the green up around them down here until I can place that sheep in the first of the birds, and then I'll carry the green on. But my revised plan is that this whole section down here, this L section, which is 6 sheep, 2 birds, a cow, and the associated grass, will be done by the end of August, which means 2 months. And I think that, that's going to require some concentration, which, you know, that's what we do. We stitch. So now I originally, way back when I first started this in January, I started it this way on the linen. And Leslie alertly warned me that I was wrong, that I would run out of space because this is not the way the linen was supposed to be. So I just changed it 90 degrees, and therefore this chrysanthemum and a little bit of this border area that I didn't rip out is the stitches are crossed the wrong way. And I thought I would just leave it until I got there, which is not until August or September, I think, technically, to see if it bothers me that they're crossed the wrong way. And since I had the different colors of green on my needle, the lighter green and then the gold and the yellow, I just carried that over because they were there. And so far, I am not bothered. We'll see. My bet is that I won't be bothered. That's just a bet, my guess. But isn't that beautiful? It is really a beautiful sampler. This is 36 count, just the ticket, by Tabby Cat, which is a called for fabric, and I'm using the DMCs 2/2. And it's so vibrant and beautiful. I'm really enjoying it. I also thought about a lot of things. I thought about the Martha Miller. I thought about Jane Greenough, which I am going to start working on this month, July. And a couple of other things that I haven't touched in a while. Bertram. I thought about my patriotic stitching that I was so pleased to get a whole bunch of patterns, as if I'm going to finish them all by next July 4th, the 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. I don't know. I will probably pull out, I'm working on Stars, which I think is the Plum Street one. And the And Stripes is a kitten stitcher. That little trio would be 3 pillows. I intend to work on those. I have Stars started. I should just do it. But you know, other things seem more urgent. And at this moment, what seems urgent, and this will be a plan for the next, between now and the next video, I have to make a lot of progress on Jane Greenough. I have seen people that they've finished it, and I have also seen people struggling to get it right side up or whatever. And I see you, and I hope to learn from the fact that folks are struggling means that it just takes tremendous amounts of concentration to be sure. And when I have shown it before, and when I bring it out next time, hopefully I will have gotten to this point. In order to make it all fold up correctly, some of it has to be stitched with the right side on the back of the fabric. I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, that kind of thing is easy to make a mistake on. And of course, it has to be centered all the way down so that when you do make it, it all lines up. I'm sure that it can be done. I just haven't really gotten very far with it. But that has to be a priority because it's July, and I have in 3 months, right? August, September, October, in 3 months and a few days, I'll be leaving for England, and that needs to be finished. So I'm going to ask in that Facebook group if anybody has pinking shears that they will bring with them to the retreat, because I have Dupioni silk that I want to use for the linings of the pockets, and it ravels like crazy. And one way to manage it is to cut it with pinking shears, but I'm not sure exactly what size to cut it. And I do not want to carry pinking shears with me to England because they are very heavy. And I just don't want to do that. Anyway, that for sure, I don't normally talk about plans in a specific way, but you can count on seeing Jane Greenoff the next time I make a video. Okay, that's pretty much at least what my current brain tells me I wanted to talk about with regard to cross stitch. And I wanted to actually show you something in particular in the variety show that I came across that sort of has some stories attached to it and all, which you're kind enough to have said before that you like my stories. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video for a minute and get myself reorganized here so that these other objects are within my reach, and I will be back in a moment for you, in 2 or 3 minutes for me. Okay, I'm back. I know you've just been wondering what in the world this could be, because I hardly ever split the video in half, do I? So under our bed for a number of years, maybe 10, 12, has been a small collection of things which you might call knickknacks. Some people call tchotchke. A friend of mine called them DSAs, damn sit-arounds. I think that's quite apropos. And they are things that I have had for years, and in various reducing of material belongings, couldn't really part with them for various reasons. And the box has been under a bed for the last decade. I happened to catch sight of it the other day and realized that I've really admired many of you who post on Instagram and have such beautiful settings for your cross stitch that you post. And I have said, oh, I don't even have any of that. I don't have anything beautiful or interesting that I could create such a setting. Teresa, I'm thinking of you. And then when I remembered this box, I realized I actually do have some interesting things, or at least interesting to me, meaningful to me in various ways. And I pulled it out and thought I would show you what's in here. And maybe someday I'll post something on Instagram and you'll see some of these things. So, first of all, I think my mother gave me this maybe for my birthday or something. This is Woodward Memorial Library in Leroy, New York. Now, it's one of those, you buy a bunch of these that are on blocks of wood, whoops, and you stand it up and you can create a scene of a place. Well, Woodward Memorial Library is important because this was my very first job, and I've told you about that before, and I'll tell you library stories again, but Leslie and I worked together here. And it was my first job, and we were activists. I was, and I had it in mind to be. And she then later became a librarian and was the director there. I think that's right. Anyway, that is that. But that's not the most significant thing here. And I'm going to sort of go from least significant to, I don't know, no particular order. I sort of have them on the table, and there's some stories. This one I think my grandmother gave me this, but it's a little box that opens up. You know, it's just a metal box. I have something in it. Like a tin box with a pewter design on the top of it, and that's nice. And I, over the years, have kept various things in it. This was something we bought in my childhood. I mean, I was maybe in junior high, We bought this at some sort of craft fair, I'm gonna guess, but it's to root a vine kind of plant. And it's the shape of probably more like a double bass really, but a string instrument. And I played violin at the time, so that seemed nice. And I've never gotten rid of it. And I have at times had something in it. This is a little red fabric box that I made. It's, you know, a little bit padded and it's sewn together. This little cube shape, kind of cute. For a while I kept those commemorative quarters that were issued for each state. I kept a bunch of them in there. Now this is a very nice little bowl with a cover. Someone gave me this as a gift. I'm going to say it would have been in high school or college era, before I was married. And it might have been Leslie, but I don't remember. But it's very pretty. And, you know, it's sort of shiny. That's what you're seeing, the reflection of the lights on it, but it's very nice. It's a nice shape. I don't know what I would, I mean, clearly I don't really know what I would keep in it because I have had it packed away all these years, so I haven't longed for it on my dresser or anything. And now we're going to get into true knickknacks. I mean, those are sort of knickknacks, I guess. And this is not 100% of what was in the box, but these are things that have some connection with people. Now, this is probably the newest thing in this collection that I happen to have. This is from Kenya, and this was something that Randy Russell had. I think somebody brought it to him. Randy was one of our pastors, and he and I had the same timeline at the Bible church, at our church. And this is from Kenya, and I really like giraffes, and it's kind of interesting how it's designed and painted. And he gave it to me. He didn't give it to me specially. He didn't say, Emily, I want you to have this. He was clearing out his office at one point, and he said, this poor giraffe has its ear broken, and I'm going to throw it away. And I said, you can just glue that back on. And he said, someone can glue it back on. I said, well, if you give it to me, I will glue it back on. And so I did. And in fact, I can't see where it was. I can't figure it out. And I think it's carved out of wood and then painted, I think is the idea. Maybe it was this little antler thing. I don't know. Something up here was broken and I fixed it. And I like it. Now, I'm pretty sure I bought this. I love horses. Some of you know. Let me get something white. This is a plain piece of paper. You know, whenever I want a plain piece of paper, I can't find one. Well, here's an envelope. It'll be white enough so you can see the lovely shape of this horse. And it's beautiful walnut wood. I do like these dark black walnut. On the back of it, there's no grain, but beautiful color. And I like horses, and this was something that I bought. And then the legs broke off it at some point, and I glued them back on. You can sort of see that I glued them back on, but you know, it's fine. And from a normal viewing distance, as I will say, you really can't tell. And I possibly could do something to mark, you know, to disguise that a little more, but I do like that. Hand carved somewhere. It does not have a place on it, and I can't remember, but I think I got it in high school. I know I got this in high school on some trip we made. This is an owl cup carved again out of black walnut. Apparently black walnut is one of my favorite woods. So nice. It's a DSA, definitely. But the nice thing about it is that it's so smooth, it's easy to dust. But it says on it, Middleton, Canada. So it was a souvenir at some point. Oh. Um, this little bear, very cute, isn't it? I have a feeling that my high school friend Suzette, my classmate, might have given me this. It has its little feet painted, its little face. It's like a little hand-carved wooden teddy bear. And this wood is quite interesting. It's, the grain is raised, so it's not smooth. Not sure how they achieved that in terms of carving it, but it's cute. And then this was, this is a Chinese replica of a famous, one of the famous line of Chinese horses. I'm not sure about the colors on it. And it was a cast porcelain, or cast, not even as nice as porcelain, clay thing. Our church had a sale to help victims of some disaster in China, a flood or a monsoon or something. And we have a lot of Chinese in our church. And so there was it was either in China or in Taiwan. And so there was a sale, and this would have been more than 30 years ago, I would say. And so we bought this little thing. And of course, since I love horses, that's fine. This is something horses do. They pick up their hind foot and they scratch their foot with their teeth. This is not an unusual pose, but it's kind of cool. I don't know. You know, if I were forced to triage these, I might not keep that, but at the moment, I don't feel forced. Sorry for leaning out of the frame. I don't feel forced to triage them, so. Now, these next things I'm going to show are not, I did not buy them. And they have kind of a story behind them, or maybe two stories. So when my parents moved into the house that my mother grew up, when my family moved into the house my mother grew up in Leroy, New York, when I was 12, it was full of stuff, and it was, that doesn't matter if it was full of stuff. It needed to be updated. It was not up to code with regard to plumbing or electricity, and especially the electrical wasn't up to code. And so one of the first things that my parents did was to get an electrician and have pretty much the whole house rewired, which was quite challenging because it was plaster walls. And in order to get inside the wall, I mean, there were electric outlets, but to redo them, it was a lot of fishing of wires through between the laths of the plaster walls and cutting into the plaster and then mending the plaster with plaster, hopefully, and that kind of thing. So it was a very big deal. And my mother found an electrician who was a sort of an older guy, I would say. I mean, at the time, he seemed quite old to me. I was 12. My parents were 41 or so at that point. Could that be so? Around 40, 41. And this man was probably in his mid to late 50s. So he seemed old to me because he was older than my parents. But he was kind of an interesting, quirky character and a very good electrician. But my mother served as his helper. And so 5 days a week for many weeks, he was in our house working on our electricity. And either it was summertime and he was just there and my brother and I would do whatever, or it was school time and we would come home from school and they would be rewiring whatever. And I got chatting with him as well, even though I was shy. You know, he became sort of a fixture, if I can use the pun, at our house. And so eventually, as the work was winding down, he said to my mother that he would like to give me his collection of bronze dogs. And my mother thought, oh, he has, 4 or 5 bronze dogs. Well, Emily would love that. Emily loves animals. We had a dog at the time. I think we did. And that would be very nice, Mr. Wyand. Thank you so much. And so he came over with, on 2 or 3 different occasions, with handfuls of them. He had 30 or 40 bronze dogs that he'd collected. And I was blown away. I loved them, and I would lay them all, set them all up in my dresser, and I would hold them. They have a nice feel to them, and this is one of them. This is a spaniel of some sort. And it's bronze, but it has this patina on it as if it were copper, but I'm quite sure it isn't copper. I mean, it weighs like bronze, and it was really nice. Isn't that nice? And another one that he had I thought was quite nice. This one is a souvenir of Washington, D.C., or souvenir of the Washington Capitol. There's this little thing on it. But it is an interesting pose for a dog, howling. Anyway, I like those two. And when we moved, I'm going to guess, I gave a bunch of them away. I gave some to some kids that I knew and gave some to the lesser ones to, I don't know, maybe the church yard sale or something. Well, meanwhile, my father and I think Mr. Wine also had bronze horses. And so I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure these 2 dogs I just showed you were from him. But I'm not 100% sure about these horses because my father also had bronze animals, which apparently this is a thing that people of a certain age collected. And maybe your parents or you have collections of bronze animals also. But I really did like the horses, and I didn't keep them all, but this is just a beautiful foal. Let's put it up here. It's probably about a 3-week-old foal. It's pretty young, it's pretty spindly, but you can see the muscle definition. It's beginning to get some thickness to its neck. Has a little bit more of a tail than just the little wispy, brushy, floppy thing that real little foals have. But I just really like that. I don't know if this is really focusing what you can see here, but. And then the other one, and this is, I kept this because it's just so kind of funny, but this is a horse. Just has a little sassy expression. So this one is quite realistic. This one is pretty cartoonish, but I like them both. Kind of like these 2 dogs, I guess, although I think maybe they're both realistic, but these 2 dogs are quite different. And anyway, those were just some interesting, fun things that are under the bed. Now that I've pulled them out, what will I do with them? Well, I do have the mantle, which I've had the same things on the mantle for a few years now. Maybe it's time to put those things away and get the bronze dogs out. Dogs and horses. I'm a little wary of putting certain things on the mantle because the cleaning people possibly could break some things. And I don't think they could break bronze things, but the wooden items they could possibly. Although the owl is unbreakable, right? There's no way to break that. It's just a piece of wood. So I'm not sure. But since I found them and was sort of reminded of them, I thought I would show them to you. I am curious as to whether bronze animals are a thing in any of your backgrounds as well. Maybe you have shelves full of them. Feel free to send me an email. My email address is in the description field, or send a text. And if you want to show me pictures of your bronze animals, I'd be curious. That would be fun to see. Well, I've got to, this video is plenty long. I should give you a little housekeeping information and tell you what we're about to do. So housekeeping information is, I think that I will not do a video next week. Now, the reason is not because I'm going to be away. And in fact, I haven't really looked ahead to see if it's a good idea to not do a video next week. But I'm quite busy with our HOA and with the Board of Deacons at the church, and I'm winding up my job at the church. The year end for our fiscal year just happened, and since I'm helping in the business office, it's quite busy suddenly. Well, not suddenly, but the busyness has not let up with the days going by. There's some things that I want to do around the house a little bit. I want to get in my sewing room more. And I think I'm going to just, if I say in advance that I'm not going to do a video, it gives me a different pacing of how I work on cross stitch. But I will be continuing to do Under the Roof because I'm making good progress toward finishing that this year. And also, of course, Hannah Green, because a stitch along that one is responsible for, one should keep up with. And I work on Jane Greenoff. So for sure I'll be stitching on those in the next 2 weeks. And I will come back 2 weeks from today, which will be the 18th of July, I think. So that's that plan. In other news, we had a great time with our Pine Cove City kids, boys. We played games. Did I already tell you all this? Maybe I did. The deck is finished. We have all the permits for it, and we got a new grill as of this morning. So this afternoon, we're having some friends over to test the grill. Not test it, to inaugurate the grill. Actually, Byron and I cooked hot dogs on it at lunchtime just to sort of get an idea of how it works, how hot it gets, and it gets nice and hot. In fact, I'm so impressed with how hot it gets that I think we definitely will get the pizza stone. I think it will be pretty cool to do pizza in there. And I'm looking outside because there it is. Since it's cooled off from us, we preheated it and let it run at full tilt for 15 minutes before we put the hot dogs in, because we wanted to burn off any of the residual stuff, you know, that metal has on it when it's been manufactured into something. And having done that, I think we're going to actually shift its position on the deck just a little bit in order to hide the extra tank and the solo stove on the other side of it, and be able to put our extra chairs behind it as well. So just to give a more open look to the deck itself, but it's really nice. It is not a low-end grill. It's a very nice grill. I hope it will be a 10-year grill for us. If it is, it'll be twice as long as the longest grill we ever had. And since it's twice as expensive, that seems reasonable to me. Yeah, so I'm hoping Scott and Natasha will come at some point. That could also affect my video schedule. If they come, I won't make a video. And it will also make my stitching less. I had thought of doing a stitch with me kind of video sometime where I turn on the camera maybe at this angle and I just stitch on something. You'll see my light and my stitching, and I'll be looking down at my pattern and so on. But we could chat, meaning I could chat and you could listen. You're so kind as to listen to these. Anyway, I might try that. I do stitch every day. And so maybe I would try that just as a sort of to catch up in the middle of the time that I'm not doing a real video. And who knows what I'll do. But just for sure, no video next Friday. I'm sorry for those who will be disappointed. And I will definitely come back unless Scott and Natasha come for a video the following Friday, the 18th. And then we'll see. We'll see what happens as the summer goes along. It has been hot here, so hot, but it's fine. It's fine. It's summer. It's beautiful. I hope that you are enjoying your holiday day, weekend. Perhaps you're traveling. Safe travels to everyone. Be safe around your grills and your fireworks and your children and your pets and your pools. I have heard that fire departments and ERs are inundated this time of year. And I hope it won't be you. So be super careful. And I guess that is all. Thanks so much for watching, and many blessings to you, friends.